Give it up one more time for Dr. Jacoby Wilson and his tireless work. Before I get started, let me just make sure on your tables will see this flyer on your table. Please take one, and more importantly, please come tomorrow night. The address is there. It's right near the Shaw Howard Metro Station. But it's going to be a climate conversation and gospel concert with the likes of Ms. Sharon Levine, Justin J. Pearson, Ms. Roshetta Ozane, Maya Penn, and then a performance. It's all free, too. Just got to show up. Make sure you get there at 6 p.m., though. Doors open at 6, by Anthony Smith and my dear brother, Leslie Odom Jr., who many of you remember from the movie Hamilton and many other things. Well, good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you today. And I want to start by acknowledging the strength and resilience of the communities we are fighting for. At Hip Hop Caucus, our work is guided by a simple but powerful principle: justice for our people and planet. We are here because we know that the fight against climate change and environmental degradation isn't just about protecting the earth, but our homes, families, and futures. It's about the frontline and BIPOC communities who have been systematically ignored and disproportionately impacted by pollution and climate disasters. For the past 20 years, Hip Hop Caucus has been at the forefront of merging culture, activism, and policy to drive meaningful climate action. Founded on the belief that cultural influence is a powerful tool for social change, Hip Hop Caucus has successfully mobilized young people, especially from Black and brown communities, to take a stand against environmental injustices. Through initiatives like the award-winning Think 100% platform, which includes podcasts, music, films, and grassroots activism, Hip Hop Caucus has transformed the climate justice narrative, making it accessible and relevant to communities that have historically been sidelined in environmental conversations. By amplifying the voices of those directly impacted by environmental racism and linking their stories to the broader fight for climate justice, the caucus has raised awareness and galvanized action at local, state, and national levels. In 2014, Hip Hop Caucus produced the groundbreaking Heal Our Mother Earth album, Home, a powerful collaboration with iconic artists that blended the energy of hip hop with urgent climate messaging. This project not only showcased the talent of visionary artists, but also amplified their voices in the fight for climate justice, turning music into a tool for change. Building on this momentum, Hip Hop Caucus has produced an array of impactful films, including the award-winning Underwater Projects, narrated by the amazing Wanda Sykes, which highlighted the human impact of rising sea levels. Our Big Oil's Last Lifeline, that series and animated shorts on Justice 40, clean vehicles, and petrochemicals further educated the public on critical issues, turning complex policies into accessible, compelling stories. Each film was connected with a clear call to action, mobilizing thousands to engage in key policy decisions in Washington, D.C. and beyond. These creative initiatives have inspired and empowered people to take a stand, proving our theory of change that art and activism together can drive meaningful change. Hip Hop Caucus has consistently used our platform to tackle some of the most pressing issues in the climate crisis, such as the expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure in BIPOC communities and other issues that have harmed our communities. We've led campaigns to halt the development of petrochemical plants and LNG facilities that pose significant health and environmental risks to marginalized populations. Our Respect My Vote campaign, the nation's largest nonpartisan voter mobilization effort, powered by hip hop, has educated and empowered millions of young voters to use electoral power to demand clean energy policies and hold polluters accountable. The fusion of cultural strategy and advocacy has not only shifted public opinion, but also influenced policy decisions, showcasing the power of grassroots organizing, combined with thoughtful storytelling. Throughout our history, Hip Hop Caucus has built a robust network of artists, activists, and community leaders dedicated to climate justice. Our impact extends beyond campaigns. It has shaped the national dialogue on environmental racism, uplifted the importance of a just transition to a clean energy future, and positioned itself as a trusted leader in the intersection of racial and climate justice. From our groundbreaking artivist initiatives that empower artists to use their creative talents for climate action to strategic alliances with major environmental movements, Hip Hop Caucus continues to demonstrate that the fight against climate change is also a fight for justice, equity, and human rights. As Hip Hop Caucus moves into our next chapter, we remain committed to building power within BIPOC communities and ensuring that our voices are at the forefront of the climate movement. Today, I want to talk about our theory of change that I'm always asked about at Hip Hop Caucus. Why we believe that our campaigns and advocacy work must be combined with culturally relevant narratives and storytelling. Because if we are going to tackle the critical issues facing our communities, we must do so with every tool at our disposal. And that includes the power of our voices, our stories, and our culture. So first and foremost, we are unwavering in our commitment to stop fossil fuel expansion. This means not just opposing the development of new infrastructure, like petrochemical plants and liquefied natural gas facilities, but also challenging the continued operation of existing ones that have long plagued our communities. For too long, these industries have treated our neighborhoods as sacrifice zones, releasing toxic emissions that drive up cancer rates, exacerbate respiratory illnesses, and cause untold suffering among our people. Our advocacy and organizing are essential, but changing the narrative is equally critical. We must elevate the voices and the stories of those who endure the daily impact of living near these facilities. Stories that bring to light the devastating human cost of our fossil fuel dependency. By combining the power of grassroots action with compelling storytelling, we can shift public perception, build a broader support base, and press policymakers to take a stand alongside us in this fight. Second, we are pushing for an equitable climate investments through the Inflation Reduction Act and Justice 40, ensuring that 40% of federal climate spending really reaches frontline and BIPOC communities. This is about more than just funding. It's about righting historical wrongs and ensuring that those most affected by environmental harm are at the forefront of the solutions. But policy alone isn't enough. We must connect these investments to the lived experiences of our communities, showcasing how this funding can rebuild neighborhoods, create jobs, and improve lives. Our stories can make these investments real, tangible, and urgent. Let me be clear. 40% is the floor and a mere baseline in terms of what is required to actually restore our communities. So as we fight to make it real, we must also fight for the future investments that will build on this once-in-a-generation promise. We're also tackling the issue of vehicle emissions, which disproportionately affects our communities through the scourge of asthma and respiratory issues. We must confront the reality that these emissions are not just an environmental issue. They are a glaring injustice, disproportionately choking BIPOC communities with toxic air, driving up rates of asthma, heart disease, and perpetuating a cycle of health inequity that we can no longer ignore. So our work involves engaging in regulatory conversations and promoting inclusive infrastructure for electric vehicles. We're advocating for cleaner air and healthier streets. We're also working to make sure that the transition to a clean vehicle economy includes us. So through storytelling, we can amplify the voices of youth activists, local leaders, and community members who are demanding better for their neighborhoods. We can make the case that clean air is a right, not a privilege. Clean water and air are fundamental human rights, yet too many of our communities are denied access to these basic needs. At Hop Caucus, we fight daily to protect the water and air we drink, focusing on communities connected to U.S. fisheries, watersheds, and sacred lands. Again, I must emphasize that this is more than an environmental issue. It's about health, dignity, and survival. We use our platforms to tell the stories of those fighting for clean water for generations, and we work to lift their struggles and victories as part of a larger justice movement. Lastly, we are committed to expanding urban green spaces in high-need areas. In South Los Angeles, we've worked with local groups to highlight promising projects like the Sankofa Park, the same name as this conference and theme, that promise to bring the benefits of greening and restoring our natural environment to communities in ways that don't lead to gentrification and displacement. The stories we capture highlight the work of the neighborhoods, universities, activists, and other stakeholders who are coming together to make this vision possible. This work, which is being piloted in 4 other cities around the country, has the potential to model what can become a national example. These spaces aren't just parks, but places of healing, community, and resilience. For too long, BIPOC neighborhoods, Black neighborhoods, have been concrete jungles, lacking the trees and green spaces that make cities livable. By advocating for urban green spaces, we're advocating for the well-being of our communities. Through culturally relevant storytelling, we can show how these spaces transform lives, providing natural protections, improving mental health, and creating a sense of community. If the Supreme Court is poised to overturn long-standing legal precedents that have protected our environment for decades, such as those enshrined in the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and other critical environmental laws, then it's clear that we need to take decisive measures to ensure our communities know what's at stake. The rollback of these protections threatens the health and safety of millions, especially in frontline and BIPOC communities that already bear the brunt of environmental harm. We cannot rely on outdated rulings or a court prioritizing corporate interests over public welfare and our people. Instead, we must push for bold legislative measures reinforcing our right to clean air, safe drinking water, and a livable climate. It's time to mobilize and organize and demand that our decision makers step up to fill the gaps left by the courts and safeguard our planet for future generations. The Hop Caucus believes that we cannot fight these battles alone. We must bring our culture, creativity, and collective power to this movement's forefront. Our stories have the power to change hearts and minds, to mobilize action, and to hold those in power accountable. By combining our campaigns and advocacy with culturally relevant narratives, we are not just asking for change, we are demanding it. And we are showing the world that a just and sustainable future is possible. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for not giving up the fight on your community. And thank you for standing with us, listening to our stories, bringing your own story, and joining us in this fight for climate justice. Together, and I do mean together, we can and will make a difference. All power to the people.